Hey guys, welcome back. It's Neon, and we're going to talk about what could possibly be the unified theory of everything in regards to what's going on in the anime industry right now. It's really kind of crazy. We're going to go down the rabbit hole and talk about the anime industry and how it's being positioned to take on Disney and what this has to do with Hollywood and where the politics came from lately and all of that. Unfortunately, Geeky is not going to be able to sit in on this video because she's getting ready for a show this weekend. She does craft shows and conventions, and she's going to be doing a lot of work this week to get ready for that. But I expect her to be back in the next video or the video after that. Now, if you haven't subscribed to CLOWNFISH TV, please take a minute to do so right now. We definitely can use the subs. Definitely helps the channel. We're trying to build the channel up. We're over 35,000 subs right now, which is awesome, and we really appreciate it, guys. We're trying to get to 100,000, so please help us do that. So, okay, what are we going to talk about? This might wind up being kind of a rambling video because I have a lot of thoughts. So I saw this article today from Business Insider South Africa. Actually came up as Business Insider South Africa, talking about Netflix using anime to take on Disney. And we've talked a lot about what's going on with Crunchyroll and what's going on with Netflix in regards to anime and these new shows that are being announced that are barely anime. Like yesterday we talked a little bit, and I'm going to talk about more of this Magic the Gathering anime, and I put that in quotes because this doesn't look very anime to me. It looks like a Western CGI reboot type show. And if you see some of the people involved, I don't really have hopes that it's going to be actual anime. It sounds like anime is being used now to just be a catch-all for animation, action animation, and it's the buzzword. And it has become a buzzword. Anime right now is, I really think it's sort of, I don't know if it's under attack per se, but there are some people who are trying to sort of tame anime, tame the content in anime, tame the people who work in the anime industry to make sure that they get all the toxic people out, and tame the fandom, change the fandom. You look at Crunchyroll's Stay Crunchy campaign, and it looks very much like they're going for a certain kind of audience, sort of the Tumblr audience. And I think, it's a misguided effort to appeal to a larger audience. Even though anime has a massive fan base, they're trying to appeal to what Hollywood thinks a general audience looks like. I think it's really misguided, and I don't think it's particularly genuine. I think this is Hollywood trying to recreate anime in its own image because they are going to use anime as a blunt instrument to try to knock out Disney. And anime, look at the movies that came out this year. Now, Godzilla didn't do so hot, and we might talk about that later because I'm really disappointed because we thought it was an excellent movie. Not anime per se, but it is Japanese pop culture. It is in the same wheelhouse as anime, and we're really disappointed it didn't do better. We had Detective Pikachu based on the video game. Again, they have Pokemon anime. It's in the same wheelhouse. And of course, Alita Battle Angel, which got slammed by critics and the media, unfairly, I believe, and it was a crowd pleaser. But Hollywood is smelling the money. They smell the money because I think they've milked superheroes as much as they can. I think Endgame really is going to be kind of an end game for the MCU, at least as we knew it. Now, I don't know where the MCU is going to go after this. I don't have terribly high hopes for it. I think we're gonna, we're gonna get involved with a bunch of, multiverse crap and time travel crap, and we've lost, some of the leads that people were following all these years. It just feels like Endgame was kind of the end of an era, at least for the MCU. So what is next? Hollywood has already strip mined comic books, and it looks like they're going to strip mine anime and manga next. Because there are a lot of projects announced. I mean, we've got live action Akira coming out, and Netflix, of course, is announcing all these quote-unquote anime series, and Crunchyroll is working on quote-unquote anime like High Guardian Spice. This is what's next. Anime is what's next. And Hollywood is starting to inject their politics into this industry, because if you look at the situation with comic books in particular, comic books really didn't start getting weird politically until Hollywood got involved. And now you have a lot of people working in comics who really don't want to be working in comic books. They really want to be working in Hollywood, but they're just using the comic book industry as a stepstone to get themselves a movie deal or a TV deal. And that's kind of what happened to the comic book industry. And comic books themselves became very secondary. It was all about the IP. It was all about getting that Hollywood deal. And I think this is what's going to go on with animation. It is what's happening right now with animation. And this goes back to conversations we had with people working in the animation and anime industries last year who came to us when we started talking about like She-Ra and Thundercats Roar and all of that. These insiders, there were multiple insiders, came to us and said, basically, Hollywood is going to try to tame the anime industry because that's what's next. They're going to kind of start strip mining anime, and all the stuff you're going to start seeing, soon. It's going to have sort of like political and business machinations behind it. And sure enough, we started seeing some weird stuff with Crunchyroll. We started seeing attacks on anime from the media that support outlets like Crunchyroll. We started seeing Anime News Network attacking YouTubers. And of course, the Vic Mignogna situation, which just blew up because he's not the right kind of person to be working in this new anime industry, right? So that's how we understood it. And we actually laughed it off at the beginning, and it really comes down to Hollywood. It really comes down to Hollywood getting involved and having their sights set on the anime industry. So, with all that being said, let's talk about this article and talk about a couple other things we've discussed over the last few weeks. Why Netflix is using anime to take on Disney, coming from Business Insider. And here are the bullet points. If you've noticed a lot more anime on Netflix recently, that's because it's part of Netflix's strategy to fight against Disney. Yeah, Disney's not producing anime, but they are bringing Clone Wars back. But both Netflix and Crunchyroll, which is part of Warner Media, which is going to start its own streaming service, are beefing up their anime content. I just question whether or not all of that content is actual anime. As the launch of Disney Plus gets closer, movies and TV shows owned by Disney might be leaving Netflix. This is true. Netflix will have to rely more on its original content, and anime could give Netflix a big advantage. It's partnered with several Japanese production houses to produce 5 original shows. They're talking though about, if we're talking about Magic the Gathering, the quote-unquote anime, it's not being produced in Japan, and we'll talk about that. This is, I think, anime in name only. So if you watch Netflix, you probably noticed a lot more Japanese-based cartoons called anime on the show reel lately. All this anime could actually be Netflix's secret weapon in its fight against Disney. The Netflix versus Disney arc has already begun. Disney's own streaming service, Disney Plus, will launch later this year. As the launch of Disney Plus gets closer, more and more Disney content has been leaving Netflix. It's true. There was a time when a new Avengers movie was almost guaranteed to show up on Netflix, but that's no longer the case. Because Disney owns so much content, Netflix could lose big names like Pixar, Lucasfilm, Marvel, and even 20th Century Fox, and Disney isn't the only company launching their own streaming service. Warner Media, the parent company of the CW, HBO, and DC, also Crunchyroll, also Rooster Teeth, they're neglecting to mention that, Otter Media, is launching a new service in 2019 as well, and we're going to talk about that. All of this is about Hollywood positioning themselves to gear up for the next phase of the streaming wars, and anime is definitely going to get caught in the crossfire of this, I believe. So besides Disney's content, Netflix may also have to say goodbye to films like Friends and Riverdale. As more entertainment companies start their own streaming services, Netflix will be forced to rely on its own original content, which they have been, but Netflix has been busy. Netflix director of anime said it planned to add 30 new anime series that year, and the company has already announced over a dozen anime series coming in 2019. Over the past few years, Netflix has ramped up production of original content, producing more than 5 times the number of shows in 2018 than 2016, and analysts think Netflix could spend around, 18 billion on, well, this is South Africa, so whatever their currency is down there, 8 billion, a lot of money on original content in 2019. For comparison, HBO spends around 29 billion. Again, this is their currency. I'm not exactly sure what South African currency is, so forgive me. I'm sure we've got some South African readers who will clue me in. In addition to live action shows, Netflix has added original anime series like Castlevania and Devilman Crybaby and they have plenty of anime classics like Fullmetal Alchemist and Bleach. The streaming channel isn't just buying a lot of anime, they're changing the way deals are made in the anime industry. Normally, several different companies negotiate together to produce, fund, and distribute a show. That way, the risk is distributed. Netflix, on the other hand, is willing to take on more of the risk on their own. In March, Netflix announced partnerships with 3 Japanese production houses, adding to the 2 partnerships it already had. Yeah, this is not looking good for Crunchyroll at all. And then, of course, Funimation split too. They split from Crunchyroll. These production houses will create 5 new anime series for Netflix. Working conditions in the anime industry can be strenuous with long hours and slim margins. Many are hoping that direct deals with Netflix could allow for greater creative freedom and larger profits for production houses. And because Netflix is available in over 190 countries, it's possible that having these anime series on Netflix could bring in a broader audience. They said the same thing about Crunchyroll, that the profits from Crunchyroll were going to be used to give better working conditions to the Japanese studio, and instead we get High Guardian Spice. So we're going to talk about that. Why Netflix is putting so much focus on anime specifically, it could be the big differentiator between Netflix and Disney+. Disney's original content doesn't include any anime, and Disney has said that their service will be family-oriented. Well, some anime is, it's iffy. So probably won't include mature content seen in shows like Devilman Crybaby. Having an entire category of content that Disney Plus lacks could be a huge advantage for Netflix, especially since demand for anime has continued to grow over the last decade, but not everyone is happy about Netflix announcing that they're going to combine with all of this anime. Funimation's president heavily criticized Netflix when it acquired the rights to stream Neon Genesis Evangelion. Yeah, I have a problem with it too, because I don't know what this dub is going to be like. They worried that good anime series will get buried in Netflix's large library instead of getting the larger release they deserve, and Netflix isn't without competition in the anime streaming space. Funimation, of course, they pulled a lot of their content from Crunchyroll, so they're trying to start their own competing streaming service, and now here comes Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is one of the biggest anime series of all time. They're not getting it. Netflix is getting it. They're a little salty. Anime streaming giant Crunchyroll, now owned by AT&T, this is important, we'll talk about that, boasts 45 million users and 2 million subscribers. In March, Crunchyroll announced an expanded partnership with Adult Swim. Again, everything's combining here, and they're all owned by Warner Brothers, allowing Adult Swim to air more of the content available on Crunchyroll on TV. A similar agreement allowed Adult Swim to air Mob Psycho 100 last year. Hulu also boasts an impressive anime library, and it has acquired exclusive streaming rights to One Punch Man Season 2, and now that Disney owns a 60% stake in Hulu, they might have an opening to the anime world after all. They compare Netflix's journey to Eren Yeager versus A World of Titans. So this is very important. So Hollywood is looking at anime to basically save these streaming services, I think. I think this is really where this is going. But the problem is, again, with Netflix, not all of the anime is actually going to be anime. Now, they made a big deal yesterday about this Magic the Gathering anime coming to Netflix from the Russo brothers, which, that's huge street cred. And again, this is Disney versus anime, because they poached the Russo brothers off of Marvel. They poached them off of Marvel to do anime for Netflix. So this doesn't look like anime. Yeah, this looks like CG. This looks like reboot style CGI. And we talked a little bit about this. They made a big deal about calling it quote unquote anime. That's like calling the new She-Ra anime. It might be anime inspired, but it's clearly not anime. Now, here's the thing. Geeky did some digging yesterday, and the series is actually, the animation's being handled by a company called Octopi Studios. And Octopi Studios is home to several former Machinima staffers. So let's get the big board out. Let's get the big board out with the red strings and start connecting the dots here. Machinima used to be part of this Otter Media, which currently owns Crunchyroll, Verve, Rooster Teeth, and Fullscreen. They shit-canned Machinima, right? They got rid of Machinima. They rolled a lot of those people into Fullscreen, and the rest of them left. They went on to other things, including this Octopi Studios, I guess. Well, Octopi, so the people that worked on the Transformers Combiner Wars kind of, cheesy CGI webisodes for Machinima are actually behind, or a lot of them are behind the Magic the Gathering quote-unquote anime. And it doesn't really look like anime. They also, if you go out there and you find their YouTube channel, Octopi has an animation channel, and again, it's barely anime. This is poking fun at anime. This is like flash animation. I mean, there's no way to know what the show is actually going to look like because they might actually be tapping some Japanese studios to work on it, but it really doesn't sound like it. It sounds to me like they're calling it quote unquote anime. It's going to be about as much of an anime, I guess, as Ruby is, maybe not even as much as Ruby, but I think it's going to be in the vein of Ruby. It's probably going to be a CG show with some big name writers attached to it, and it's not going to be like actual anime. So this might disappoint, a lot of people who are expecting a Magic the Gathering anime. But again, you see, not to get political, but you start to see what's going on here, because there have been complaints about tabletop gaming, Dungeons and Dragons, and Magic the Gathering getting weirdly political once Hollywood got involved, because you start to see, these YouTube channels pop up with Hollywood people playing tabletop games. And, once Hollywood politics got involved, then the existing fandom sort of felt like they were being given the finger. As I understand it, we saw this happen in comics too. Hollywood got involved in comic books to strip mine comic books for movies. And, it feels like the original comic book fandom that grew comic books to the place where they could be turned into movies were sort of, given the finger as Hollywood chased the audience that Hollywood wanted. And now I think we're going to see something very similar with anime, where Hollywood is getting involved. They're getting involved because they're going to use anime in the streaming wars. And, we're already seeing the groundwork being laid with all the stuff going on in the anime industry, the censorship going on, the complaints about anime fans, I mean, God, that one article on Sci-Fi Wire where they're like, you're not allowed to have anime characters that wear uniforms, military uniforms that look fascist. They were banning anime. NYC was banning cosplay that they thought was quote unquote fascist. If you were wearing a military uniform, it might offend somebody. So again, these are Hollywood sensibilities. This is Hollywood politics, and it's coming into anime because Hollywood is going to get involved in the production of its own Americanized quote unquote anime industry. And this goes back to what people have been telling us for at least a year now, that they were going to basically, if Japan wasn't going to play ball, then Hollywood would produce its own quote unquote anime and sort of piggyback off of the Japanese studio's efforts. And, the biggest indicator that this was going on was actually High Guardian Spice. High Guardian Spice, they made a big deal about High Guardian Spice last year, which is MIA, by the way, and we did a video about that. We have no idea where High Guardian Spice actually is, but the selling point wasn't the story, the selling point wasn't the characters, the selling point was the team that worked on High Guardian Spice. I mean, currently, it looks like vaporware. There have been no clips of the show released. It seems like it's MIA, and it probably is because of all the crap that's going on at Warner Brothers right now with Warner Media. But when it was announced, the big selling point for High Guardian Spice was the diverse, inclusive team working on it, not the show itself. And again, going back to what people have told us, with Hollywood getting involved in the anime industry, it's more about hitting that demographic that Hollywood wants to hit, right? Chasing after the audience that Hollywood wants to chase after, which at this point seems to be the Tumblr crowd. Again, you look at Crunchyroll's marketing campaign, you look at, what's going on with, all the stuff going on with Funimation and everything else right now. And it does look like, politics are kind of coming into play here. Hollywood politics are coming into the anime industry. So, now, Otter Media, let's talk about this. Again, this is like, it's a mess, but it all makes sense when you pull it all together. Otter Media is part of Warner Brothers, Warner Media. Otter Media owns Crunchyroll, Verve, Rooster Teeth. They used to own Machinima. Now, remember, Machinima, the people who worked at Machinima are actually going to be responsible for this Magic the Gathering, quote-unquote, anime. They worked on this Transformers thing, Combiner Wars, which was so they're being rolled into Warner Media, and they're going to have this new streaming service. I really do think, and Gigi and I talked about this in another video, I really do think Crunchyroll as a standalone service might get gone, and they might just have the, like, Rooster Teeth and Crunchyroll produce content, original content for whatever this Warner Brothers streaming service is. And we've actually got some people inside the anime industry who are telling us that, people at Cartoon Network are really scared for their jobs right now. They're really concerned about their jobs because it seems like there are going to be some big changes at Cartoon Network too. Again, part of Warner Brothers. All of this stuff is going to kind of congeal into, I think, just an animation division producing pseudo anime for streaming services to compete against Disney. And we did a separate video on this, that Otter Media is being realigned under Warner Entertainment. And yeah, you want to know where High Guardian Spice is? You want to know where Thundercats Roar are? They're MIA because they're probably waiting to see what happens with this. They could be produced, and it could just be that they're sitting on it until this streaming service launches, and they're going to use shows like High Guardian Spice as quote-unquote anime to get people to subscribe to the service, to kind of get their foot in the door, because Warner has to be looking at Netflix beefing up their anime content, and that Disney's going to have all kinds of crazy expensive Star Wars and Marvel content at launch. And for them to compete, I think they're going to bank on High Guardian Spice. I really do. I think shows like this, they could be working on more High Guardian Spice. They could be working on more Rooster Teeth type shows. And it's just all going to be very, very interesting to watch this. And I think when the dust clears, it's basically going to be Netflix versus Disney. I mean, that would be my belief, because Netflix, pretty much originated this, and they're the ground floor. But Disney's got Hulu too, so they can use Hulu to provide not so family friendly content. Even talking about family friendly entertainment, there's a debate as to whether or not anime should be banned based on underage drawings of girls being too lewd. And, this is a whole debate right now. I'll link to this article on One Angry Gamer. But again, it does seem like, I think Hollywood is getting involved, and they're like, what can we put on our streaming services? We got to make sure this kind of stuff isn't on our streaming services. And if this is what Japan's going to produce, then we're going to go out and make our own quote unquote anime. We're going to go make our own stuff. We'll go make our own anime, and, the sheeple won't know any better. They just won't. We're just gonna call it anime, and hope that people don't notice it's not actually anime. So I have a lot of thoughts to unpack. We're gonna be following this for the foreseeable future, because I really do think the future of the animation industry and anime is going to be determined by the streaming wars and what happens with Disney and Netflix and all of that. That will determine where the animation industry goes from here, where anime in America goes, and what the future of this hobby is for us. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.